Who's going to take the pitch then? Who's going to explain what probate auctions is?
Look, the pitch is quite simple. That the auction world is auctions have been taken over by traders, and my history, I've been a trader for the last 20 years. That's what I've done. But when I sort of looked around and looked at the properties that were kind of out there, a lot of it was second-hand stock. It was the auction houses were selling a lot of properties where they've been on the market, may have been on the market for a day, may have been on the market for 12 months. And it's mainly those properties that are making up kind of 50-60% of auction catalogues. And my business and what we'd always done was basically bring property to the market that had never been to market. So we were able to source opportunities. And I felt that if I could bring some of that to the table and build relationships, and it went through various different channels. It went through, shall we use data from my existing business, or shall we sort of build corporate relationships? But I felt there was a gap in the market in the probate world where they weren't really using auctions.
Can you just explain what probate is, please?
Yeah. Probate is the process that you need to apply for when somebody passes away. And you have to obtain probate before you can sell the property. Grant the probate.
So, stupid question maybe. Do you rely on people dying that own properties in order to make money?
The business is geared. Yeah. The business is geared towards supporting the probate sector, which is it's a pretty big industry. I mean, there's probably 100,000 properties a year that are falling into probate.
Yeah.
95% of which go through conventional agency. The other 5% possibly go to auction or are retained by family.
And so I would just say, from what we've seen over the years, a large percentage of that is people being taken advantage of because of the situation surrounding the property, the condition of the property. The probate properties tend to be relatively run down, dated properties in need of modernisation.
How do you mean taking advantage of them?
By unscrupulous agents basically selling them on the cheap to their local friendly property person. And as Nick alluded to earlier, 3 weeks later, that same property, where does it appear? In an auction, being sold by the property trader who's picked it up for cheap from the agent.
And who do you think are your main buyers who come to your room and buy from you?
It's completely spread.
It's completely spread. So, for example, we've got a property in next week's auction over in Amersham, and I went down to the viewing yesterday. Every single type of buyer you can imagine was at this property, from local tradesmen in their builder's gear, young couples looking for their first home, families, investors. The full spectrum of buyers tend to be these properties appeal to them.
And when you launched the business, I'm sorry, I'm looking at your questions, I'm interested. When you launched the business, did you start with an absolutely clear database and it's just pure exposure and marketing, or is it you had people already buying? How did you make that leap?
In terms of the buyer's side of things, it's a combination. I think goes towards making a successful auctioneer. Is creating a following for your business of people who regularly, because there are auction groupies, I'd call them.
Okay.
They like to look through every catalogue that comes out every month from every auctioneer, and you build a following. So I'd already built a following from my previous business that allowed us to start with a sizable database in the many thousands. That very quickly grew because that stamp of probate attracts a lot of people. People are very interested in these properties because, as Nick said earlier, they are fresh to the market, this virgin stock that usually hasn't changed hands for a long time, 30, 40, some of these properties are same family ownership for 40, 50, 60 years. So when it finally comes to market, it tends to attract interest. So all of that, coupled with all of the standard marketing practices, Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, specialist auction portals, along with all the other routes, social media, print advertising, we push ourselves out there. We were very keen from day one to make sure we were all over socials, LinkedIn, and we were putting the message out there that we're here.